I'm Glenn McGinnis, and this is Outburst. On the program, should the voting age in Canada be lowered?
So I think 18 is a pretty good age.
I think it will just sort of allow more people to vote.
I don't think it's in our best interest to let people vote below the age of 18.
We should lower the voting age.
But first, over the years, the way people followed politics was usually through the mainstream media, television, radio, or newspapers. But these days, tools like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or even YouTube, just to name a few, has dramatically altered how we follow politics in today's age. It's also changed the way we add our voices to the conversation. We sent our cameras out to ask people how this medium has altered the way people keep on top of politics in this country. Our question: how has social media influenced your take on Canadian politics?
Not really. I mean, maybe a bit on Twitter, but not really. I mean, I'm not really influenced by social media. No.
It doesn't affect it at all. I don't look at social media for that kind of stuff, you know. To be honest with you, I don't really follow Canadian politics all that much.
I think we have just kind of moved away from taking social media as a reference point because the algorithm just caters to your taste, I feel sometimes. So you can listen to both sides of the story and it will just cater to your opinions. So I think we just now stick to authentic sources versus social media where everyone's on their propaganda. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think social media really. I mean, although a lot of politicians are taking to social media to connect with their voters, I personally don't think there's much of a basis because, yeah, there's confirmation bias. So you're targeted with like what it's designed for you. So, yeah.
Well, I try not to spend a lot of time on social media, but the stuff that I have seen on social media, I just feel like it's somebody else exactly like me on the other side of the phone. So I don't really take my politics, I don't really take my advice for politics on social media. Yeah.
Actually, I don't participate a lot in on those, on Twitter, Facebook and all that. So basically they don't affect me at all. Yeah.
Well, I guess, yeah, of course, if you don't live here in Canada, you see, like, you get your information on social media, on Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat or whatever. So I'm sure there's a lot of videos about Canada and the Canadian politics. Like I've seen a lot on Justin Trudeau. Maybe he's trending, I guess it's because he's good looking. So that's more clicks and likes. And yeah, so I think it does, social media does influence the politics in general and the Canadian politics. Yes.
It doesn't really show me the other side. It will show me the other side, but the negatives of the other side and the positives of only my side. So I feel like that's how it influences. It kind of just pushes one narrative towards what you've already introduced into your algorithm.
I think I definitely have a more negative outlook on Canadian politics because of social media.
Why so?
Just the things that people post. They don't have nice things to say about anything, really.
I think it influences a little bit, but I think that I like to have my own opinions on stuff too. I don't like to try and be swayed by social media.
A little bit, because I follow different parties and the news. So yeah, I follow all the news by social media. So that's the way I get influenced. I don't watch much TV, so yeah.
Yes, I think so.
How?
Well, I think that like social media is filtered to what you click on. So if you're going to click on something random, it's going to show you similar things to that. So you're only going to see things related to what you tend to click on. So you might not be seeing a huge portion of what's actually out there. So what if I'm only seeing a small portion, then that might, I'm limiting myself to only what I'm seeing.
It depends on what it's posted. I think we need to be very careful on balance what's posted because sometimes it could be biased. So I just take a grain of whatever I see.
The thing about social media is that it can harvest a lot of misinformation. So especially during election time, it'll be hard to disseminate what's true and what's false. So for me, I think it sort of has negatively impacted it in the way that it's hard for me to tell what's true and what's actually being told in a reliable way.
I think it's made sound bites into like just tweet bites essentially at this point, so that it makes it so that it depends on if you're following a variety of different political people at different levels, whether it's federal, provincial, municipal, and I think it gives a one-sided view if you're not following all of them. So I think it's important just to have some diversity in who you're following, no matter what your political leanings are, and to just learn from what people are saying and to get a diversity of sources.
I think it impacts everyone's views on politics simply because someone can put anything out there. Like, the impact you can have on anyone just by posting something, it reaches more people than you ever could through any other means. So let's say I post something, like looking at my views on it, hundreds of people see that. They're gonna subconsciously think of that when they're like looking at current affairs or things like that, and it will sway their opinion a bit more towards what they've recently seen.
I try to not be influenced by social media. I try to look for like information outlets that I choose rather than that are like part of my like social network. It's not like where I go to get political information. So I would say no, but I'm intentful. It's my intent to not be influenced by social media, especially for politics.
So I think that we live in an age today where social media is taken over, and there's just too much rhetoric and too much negativity generally speaking, at large. So I take it with a grain of salt, but once in a while I get caught up in the rhetoric, and you may make a comment here or there that is not so much inappropriate, but it's your own particular viewpoint. And that's fine. I mean, everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but social media plays a big role. And I think the way that people think today, and I don't necessarily believe that that's a good thing, but it is what it is, right?
It was back in 1970 when the legal voting age in this country was lowered to 18 from age 21, opening up a whole new wave of young voters eager to weigh in whenever the next election was called. Well, in recent years, there has been talk about lowering it once again to age 16. One could argue that 16 is too young to vote, but it is the same age a person is permitted to drive a car. This idea has also garnered support for the NDP and the Green Party in the past. So now, it's over to you. Our question: should the voting age in Canada be lowered?
I think it should stay as is. I believe that maturity is a big part of it. And if you're younger, generally you're not quite as mature mentally, whereas the age it's at now is sort of when you're getting more mature. I don't think raising it anymore would be a good idea, so I think it's pretty good where it is.
Sure, anything that encourages people to vote. If they want to vote, let them vote.
I'm comfortable with where it is right now. I think that maybe if we were to educate young people in high school a little bit more about how voting works, then I'd be a bit more open to it. But the way it is right now, I think it's okay.
I think it should stay the same. Yeah, for sure. The reason is because a lot of people just make decisions based off what they'll see on the internet, and I think at a younger age they're much more easily suppressed or influenced by whatever they'll see on the media. And I think we're seeing this right now, like with TikTok and YouTube and people in the basements of their parents creating all these contents without having the actual facts could have an negative influence on our elections.
No. No, I don't. I don't think there's enough responsibility for somebody that would be at that age level, to be honest with you. They may be well aware of events that are happening, but I don't think it's in our best interest to let people vote below the age of 18.
I think that 16 could be something that's explored. I know that there's other countries that have 16 and have proven quite successful in really getting engagement from 16-year-olds, but it would start in the schools, and there would just have to be some great education programs implemented in high schools to be able to educate people at 16 to vote.
I don't think so. I think we're in an age where kids aren't really concerned about politics, and if they are, they're concerned about kind of the relevant things, like making weed legal was the biggest one I remember. So that kind of influences their vote, and I feel like if we do make it younger, politicians will aim towards more issues like that, like the making weed legal, and try to cater towards the younger generation, whereas they're not thinking of the bigger picture.
No, I don't think so.
Why not?
No. Because below 18 years old, I think they have to mature a little bit to think about and analyze, not just a vote. So I don't think so. No, I think 18 years old is good.
No.
Why not?
Because I think that you need to be voting. Well, you need to be educated on what you're voting for, and I think the age that it is perfect.
I don't think younger people are sure. I think they're too much influenced by their parents when they're younger still, and I think they should have their own opinions on stuff still.
No, I don't really think so. I think most people vote kind of willy-nilly now anyways. So I don't think that lowering it is going to really be beneficial. I think it will just sort of allow more people to vote, and it might not always be the best outcome.
That's a very good question. I think people tend to be more aware of what's going on, younger than when I was 16, I would say. I'm not sure it would make a big difference, because it's not a matter of age. It's really more a matter of being interested in the thing.
I think the voting age would be lower in nowadays, because now the age people, the young people, they're quite mature than the old times. So I think maybe they knew more about the politics, something like that. So I think maybe we should lower the voting age.
Yeah, no, I think it's be okay. Yeah, I'd like to see the kids more involved with politics and stuff like that. The only thing I'd be afraid of is that the children who do vote, if you could vote at 16, let's say, they're going to be heavily influenced by their parents. And so, like you might have a kid who his parents are hardcore right wing or something. That makes me a little nervous. Like, they're not voting for themselves. They're voting because it's like a family thing or a tradition or something like that. That concerns me a little bit. But yeah, I think it would be okay if the kids voted.
Oh, voting? No, absolutely not. 18. Because 16 is still a child, is a juvenile, and not in the right mind. I would even say 21.
It's 18 right now. No, I think 18 is a good voting age. I think any lower than that, and you might not put in the effort into knowing what kind of interests are being protected through your votes. So I think 18 is a pretty good age. It's that just young enough to be interested in the consequences of your own actions, but not too old.
No, I don't think so. I think when you turn 18, you become an adult, and it's just normal. I think it's right that you only can vote when you become an actual legal adult. Yeah.
Which province was the first to create its own distinctive flag? Quebec, Newfoundland and Labrador, or Ontario? Quebec, Newfoundland and Labrador, or Ontario?
What do you want to go with?
Quebec had the fleur-de-lis for a long time, I think, so...
We're going to go with Quebec.
No, I don't
We're going to go with Quebec.
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 Newfoundland and Ontario, and Labrador.
Quebec.
Oh my. I'm old, but I'm not that old. I would say Newfoundland.
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 I guess Quebec.
I would also guess Quebec.
I kind of want to say Newfoundland, but I'm not sure.
Quebec.
I'll go with Quebec.
Absolutely correct.
Really? Okay.
Good for you.
Thank you.
You did it.
I'm proud of myself.
Every province and territory in Canada has its own flag, which features important symbols which help to define their respective identities. Of Canada's 10 provinces and 3 territories, Quebec was the first to create its own distinctive flag, the fleur-de-lis, 75 years ago, in 1948. It is an enduring symbol of the province's ties to France. Premier Maurice Duplessis issued an order in council on January 21st, 1948 that approved the flag now in use. Today, Quebec recognizes January 21st of each year as Flag Day in the province. Back in March, former Governor General David Johnston was appointed by the Prime Minister as Special Rapporteur to look into those allegations of foreign interference in Canada, and concluded an inquiry was not needed, much to the chagrin of the opposition parties, who felt Johnston was not the right person for the job because he was too close to the Trudeau family. By the time June rolled around, and under intense pressure, Johnston stepped away from the role. But despite the drama, and up to the time of this taping, the Liberals have still not called a public inquiry, and critics warn if they keep putting it off, it will make Canadians even more suspicious. So, have they been handling things properly? Our question. Are you satisfied with how the federal government is addressing foreign interference?
I will say that I don't see something going there. I think they are trying to fight the fire and not really fight the source. And we need a better answer of what's happening. It's true that we're gonna be bombarded by fake news, so that's why we need maturity, right? But we need also our federal government to, yes, keep the liberty and the freedom that we have, but also try to answer our main concerns, and I don't see that.
I'm definitely not satisfied. I feel like we should be more focused on the issues for the Canadians that are here. Definitely don't not interfere, but you have bigger problems like the homelessness going on, mental illness going on, and again, the schools always need better funding. So I think we're not managing the true priorities that we should be managing.
Yes, simple as that. I think there are certain things that as Canadians we'd like to know, but we're just not entitled to. I think there are sensitive topics and content that unless you're in a position of authority and power, that doesn't necessarily need to be shared with the rest of the public. So I'm quite confident and content with the way that things have unfolded at this point in time.
It's a subject I honestly don't know a whole lot about. I think that they had one person kind of as the face of that inquiry and potentially should have had more people involved. I'm sure there were other people involved, but I think one person was really wearing all of that. And so I don't know enough about it, to be honest, to say how much has been done and how effective it's been. I think the communication to the public on it has not been the most efficient in terms of saying how thoroughly that's been looked into.
To be honest, yes, I don't really think there's much that we can do as a country beyond participating actively in all the international fora. So it's somewhat limited, but I would say that whether or not we have a public inquiry, the question we have to ask is it really going to solve the problem, or are we just airing it out for the sake of having an airing out?
I think more should be done. I mean, we are the ones that are electing, right? So I think that any information should be provided to public and not kept as a secret and then released like 2 years after. I think that we should be in the know and we should have a say in what's happening.
No, they've just been stalling and delaying and obfuscating, and they need to do something.
That's a tough one. I would say on a satisfactory level, yes, maybe satisfied, but then there are things that could be done. There are things I feel like has been made harder, more difficult for immigration, has been made more difficult for people who have already immigrated and are trying their best to settle in, no matter how long it's been. So I definitely think there's some wiggle room for some change.
Yeah, I agree.
You know what? I don't know what exactly our federal government is doing, so I can't speak to that. I just hope it's going in the right way, just because like we're Canadian and Canada is like one of the countries around the world, like countries like Montreal, Toronto, known for its diversity, right? And I just hope that the federal government like keeps that characteristics of Canada and what makes it Canadian. We welcome all cultures from all over the world, all people from all over the world. So I just hope it's keeping to that. That's all I could say.
No, pas du tout. Not totally. There's a lot of work to happen. And during the COVID, especially many families, we know they were waiting for a long time. I don't understand why it's so long to wait. I hope that they do better solutions for the future.
Personally, I just think every country should, like for the most part, mind its own business. That's my personal take on it. I'm not exactly sure. I know that there are things that go on and stuff that should be helped, but I think pretty much for the most part, country is a country and they're their own people. They should be independent, you know. So yeah.
I hope you're going to be able to find someone who's going to say yes. I doubt it though. It's really a complicated issue. I don't know how to address this, but I think at the end, more should be done towards that.
Canada is one of those countries that seems to have it all. We're surrounded by 3 oceans. We have the mountains, the prairies, and in every nook and cranny this country has to offer, you're likely to find something you'd be hard-pressed to find anywhere else. We send our cameras out to ask Canadians what it is about where they live that sets it apart from other places. Our question: what makes your part of the country unique?
I would say, well, first of all, it's the capital of Canada, and it's truly a bilingual city. And I think it's a combination of a small town atmosphere. At the same time, politically, it has such a major impact on what happens in all of Canada and around the world.
Ottawa is unique. I would say it comes from being right at the border of 2 provinces, that you get the cultures of 2 great provinces, the languages. There's nowhere else in the country that really merges the 2 so successfully in terms of French and English in Ottawa.
The fact that we have the Rideau Canal, we're lucky, and hopefully it freezes over this year.
Well, I came back from a conference the other day and I saw the sign that said Ottawa is like Canada in one city, and I think that's one of the things that makes Canada unique, because you can literally see people from all over the country in all walks of life right here. So in a way, it's a very Canadian thing that we all live together, we all have to get along, and that's one of our strengths, I think.
Well, Ottawa is city-based, but also country. You can escape the city just by going to Gatineau Park. I like Ottawa just simply because it's quieter than most cities, and we have all these amazing things that are happening here in the national capital. So that's why I like living here.
I think what's magical about it is that it's very subtle and it's very elusive. So there are many wonderful places here that people don't really know about, and you kind of have to discover on your own. So that's kind of like it's like hidden gems, I would say.
I think the multicultural society is amazing. Also, the fact that for me, because I come from Europe, I think that it gives me a European vibe, and it's something that you cannot actually find elsewhere in Canada. So for me, that's amazing.
I love Montreal very much. Montreal is my favorite city in Canada because I love the multicultural here. Yeah, I love all the construction, buildings, everything here. I love Montreal so much. It's quite different from another city.
Yeah, no, Quebec is pretty special. I'm assuming it's partly to do to the fact that it is a francophone province, Montreal in particular, I can't speak for the rest of the place, but what makes Montreal unique is there's lots of things. The municipal government invests in things for the residents that tourists can enjoy too. It's not the other way around. We don't build things we do. Old Montreal's sort of pretty touristy, but we don't specifically do things just to attract tourists. It's for Montrealers, and when people come, they realize, it's a pretty cool city, I'll come back. We have, I think we're second in North America for tourism after New York City, so that's a pretty cool thing.
I don't know. I like the public transportation. I like we have Communito, Big C, the nature, the parks, and the festival. I love the festival, the free festival. It's unique for Montreal, especially.
I think Montreal is very unique. It's very unique to Canada. I like the French influence here, the Quebecois. Everything about it is so good and so cute, and the food is amazing. The people are super nice. Yeah.
My part of the country, it's French speaking. That's very unique. The people are so lovely. That's also lovely unique about Quebec, I guess.
It's unique because of the diversity. Just here, when I work, I can see that almost everybody is different. and shows that everyone can be accepted wherever they are from. So yeah.
And here in Ontario, I think is the economic power of the country. So we need to keep doing that. When you go through the border and then you see the Welcome to Ontario open for business, and I love that, and that's Ontario. So that's what's unique here, business, and I love that.
I believe it's beautiful. The people, the multiculturalism, just everything. It's just beautiful around here. We got the lake shore over here. Go up there and there's forest, there's farmland. It's just, you get everything you want over here. So, yeah.
I love Oakville. I really enjoyed the city and how people are happy to be outside. We are in a very in a city that is very, it's a way of danger. We are secure here, and when we compare with Quebec, that's what my husband mentioned. We see how the economy here is growing, and that's what we love the most. That's what we came here to be part of this growing economy.
I think it's just a nice place to live with like the lakeshore, where it's also like connected a lot to like the city, where like the city where you can just take the GO train, but also like experience like more of like more suburban life, and especially with like lakeshore, it's just like very nice place to live in terms of like the environment and everything.
Well, I mean, I grew up here, but I went to school in Ottawa, and if I'd like to end up back there at some point. So I'd just say like Ottawa is a very, very multicultural city with a lot of, like they've got many educational institutions there. So I think it's a great hub for like people of all ages and socioeconomic levels as well. So I think what makes Ottawa special is just that melting pot of all different types of people that gather around, like internationally for school and for jobs and whatnot. So yeah, I like Ottawa for that.
Thanks for watching this episode of Outburst on CPAC. If you have any comments about this show or any other show, you can find us on social media. You can also find us on our website at www.cpac.ca. I'm Glenn McGuinness, and on behalf of my colleagues at the Cable Public Affairs Channel, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.